Hi, Phanessa here. In this video I am going to demonstrate how to knit this sweater. It's an oversized sweater made using Bernat's Plentiful. So the ball is this big, it's huge. I still had plenty left after finishing this one here. So there's almost 1,000 yards in this ball, 952 yards to be exact. So there's plenty to make a knit sweater. And they do have a free pattern in the back of the label for this top-down sweater here. If you're interested in the pattern, I'll leave links to my shop in the description box below. Okay, so you just need one ball of the Plentiful yarn. This one is Mystical. So I used a US 11 8mm needle. You can use a long straight needle. I did start off with that, and that would work as well. Because the yarn is so thin, I was able to squeeze all of my stitches onto a straight needle, but I prefer to use circular needles. Okay, you'll need a pair of scissors, tapestry needle, and this is just what I'm going to use for this tutorial. And a special thanks to Joanne Stores for sponsoring today's video tutorial. So I'm making a small sample, and we're going to make 3 pieces, and then we're going to sew them together and then work on the armhole. The armhole is worked in the round, and I used a 16-inch circular needle. You can use double pointed needles or the magic loop method with a longer circular needle. So we're going to make 3 pieces. So follow the pattern for the size you're making, and then the whole pattern is knit in stockinette. There's very little change other than the ribbing on the cuff and then around the front and around the neck. So we're just going to cast on. Again, just follow the instructions in the pattern for the size you're making. And I use a long tail cast on. Okay, so you want to place the yarn over your thumb and your forefinger. Okay, and then grab the tail, both ends, with your other fingers, and then grab your needle, place it under the strand, place your finger there, pull it back. Now we're going to go under this strand here, over this strand here, and back through the loop. And then gently pull so that it's tight but not too snug on your needles. Okay, under this strand here where your thumb is, over to this first strand here, and then back into the loop where your thumb is, and then let go. So now we have 3 stitches. Okay, so just count the loops on your needles. That's 3 right there. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to cast on 10. So go ahead and cast on the number of stitches you need, and really it could be any number based on your gauge. So for the back piece, this is going to be the width of the sweater, and this is a very loose sweater, so the width is really wide. So we're going to start with the back piece. So this is my little sample. My back piece is this wide, and the cast on is down here, and then I knit in stockinette up. The first row that you're going to knit is actually going to be the wrong side. So we're purling every stitch on this side. So to purl, you want the yarn in the front, and then you want to insert your needle in this direction. And then you want to wrap the yarn over your needle, okay, around in this direction. Okay, and now purl it and then pull the loop that's on this needle off. Okay, again, insert your needle in this direction, wrap your needle, and then purl. Insert your needle, wrap your yarn around, purl it, and then drop the stitch on this needle. Okay, I'm going to switch to Continental. This is the way I knit. I just wanted to demonstrate traditional as well, because a lot of new knitters, they learn with the traditional. Okay, so yarn in front, you want to purl every stitch across. If you have trouble seeing the yarn, there are white within the brown, if you're using the same color, that helps you kind of point out where each stitch is, because this part of the yarn is so fuzzy. Okay, now we're going to turn, and now we're going to work on row 2. So on the right side, we're just going to knit all of the stitches across. On the wrong side, we're purling all the stitches across. So that is your stockinette stitch, and this whole pattern is worked in stockinette stitches. Okay, so to knit, so we're going to insert in this direction under this needle, and then we're going to wrap and then pull it up to knit the stitch, and then you're going to pull this stitch off that needle. Again, insert and then wrap and then pull it off. Okay, so you're just going to knit every stitch across. Turn your work. Now we're going to purl every stitch across. Okay, so continue in stockinette stitch, knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, and continue that until you have the correct number of rows based on the size that you're making. So once you complete the back piece, you'll cast on the front left and right panels, and then you'll knit the same number of rows for that panel. Make sure to make 2 of those, and then we'll put together the cardigan. Okay, so let's cast off or bind off. You want to knit the first 2 stitches. Now you're going to grab this stitch here and pass it over this stitch here and then drop it. Okay. Knit another stitch and then grab the stitch on this side, pass it over and drop it. Okay, and knit the next stitch. Grab this loop with your other needle and pass it over and drop your stitch. So continue repeating these steps to cast off. Here's my last stitch. Okay, so cut your yarn. I like to put my tail through the loop to tighten. So now, since you have 3 pieces, I would block the pieces first before I assemble them, because it'll give you a nicer piece to work with. So right here, I blocked this, and this one isn't blocked. So you can kind of see how messy it is. The stitches lay a little bit flatter and nicer, and it's not curled up like this one is. Okay, so you have your back piece, your 2 panels for right and left. Now we're going to sew them together before we work on these sleeves. So you want to make sure that the wrong side is facing you. You want the right side touching. Okay, so you want the right sides facing each other, your knit stitches. And then you're going to sew right along the shoulders. So for the sides, you're going to mark where your armhole is going to be. So in this example, I marked both of them in the same place. So make sure they're the same number of rows down. And then you just sew right up along the edge into your stitch marker. So I'm going to do that on this side. So cut a piece that's long enough to sew your shoulders. So I'm going to use this one to sew the shoulders. Grab your tapestry needle. And you can use whatever method you want to sew this together. So a seamless stitch isn't necessary, but you can use the mattress stitch or whatever it is that you prefer. So with the right sides facing each other, I'm just going to whip stitch across. So I'm just following each stitch here, going stitch by stitch. Again, you can use whatever method you want. You can use a crochet hook if you prefer. Sometimes that makes it easier using a crochet hook and working slip stitches across. Okay, so now I'm just going to secure. And then you can weave in your ends. So I've got my shoulder seam done. Now I'm going to work on my side. Okay, so make sure you have a long enough piece to sew up to the underarms. Same thing, I'm just going to run my needles through both sides, through every stitch. Okay, so I'm at the stitch marker here. I'm going to secure this. Okay, so now you're going to turn your sweater the right side out. You're going to use your circular needle. I use the 16-inch. This is just a sample, so it's a little bit smaller, a lot smaller than the 16-inch. So you want to insert your needle at the underarm, and then you just grab your yarn, make a loop, place it on your needle, and then pull it through. So you can use a crochet hook if you feel like that would be more comfortable. So you're just going to pick up stitches around the armhole. So we're looking at each row here. I know this is a little difficult to see, but each row you want to insert your needle and then pull up a loop. Okay, so that's 2 rows that I'm working into. This is the 3rd row. Now I'm going to skip the 4th row and then go into the next row. And you want to repeat that all the way around. If you don't know how much to pick up, you can reference back to the pattern, follow the size that you're working on. Okay, so I'm all the way around. So I'm going to place a marker to mark the beginning of my round. Okay, so I'm going to go into this first stitch here and knit that first stitch. Now you're probably going to want to pull the tail a little bit because the tail is loose. Into the next stitch, just insert your needle and knit the next stitch. Okay, so we're just knitting every stitch all the way around. There's no purling, not yet anyway, because we're working in the round. And then I'm just going to keep knitting all the way around. So I have a few more stitches on this round here. And now I'm back to the beginning. So you're going to go ahead and work in a continuous round. And again, you should not have to work the magic loop. You should have enough space for a 16-inch circular needle to go around your armhole. Okay, so following the pattern, just knit the desired sleeve length, and you can adjust it to whatever size you want. It doesn't have to be the size that I placed in the pattern. Okay, so I'm ready for my ribbing. So I'm at the beginning of the round, and again, double check to make sure you have the same amount of stitches for your sleeve as you do the other side. So we're going to work a 1x1 rib, and it's going to be a twisted knit stitch. So instead of inserting your needle through the front loop like that, you're going to insert it through the back loop. So that's the back loop there. Okay, this is the front loop, and then this is the back loop. So we're going to knit through the back loop, and then we're just going to purl as normal. Knit through the back loop and purl as normal. So repeat that all the way around, and you're going to work whatever number of rounds you worked on the other side. And really, when I designed this, I was just winging it, and I stopped whenever I felt like it was a good size. When you're ready to cast off, we're just going to cast off with knit stitches. So knit 2 stitches, and then grab this stitch and pull it over this one. So just like we did with the panels, the front and back panels. Okay, knit the next stitch, grab this stitch here and pass it over the one we just knitted. So you're going to continue that all the way around, and then you're going to fasten off and just weave in the ends. So once you fasten off, you're going to have this gap in between your first and last stitch. Just run your needle through the first stitch and close the gap. And then just weave your ends on the inside, which I'm not going to do. I actually didn't pay attention to the number of stitches, so it might be a little off. Okay, so now we're ready for the front part here. Let me just show you what the sleeves look like. So this is the sleeve here. These are the twisted knit stitches here. Okay. So that's what the sleeve looks like. We're going to start on the band. Okay, it's pretty much the same thing I did with the ribbing, but this is going to be a little bit different because we're going to work in flat rows. So we're going to actually have to purl through back loop on the wrong side, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to start on the bottom left corner and go in this direction. Again, I'm going to pick up 3 stitches for every 4 rows, and then I'm going to go across the neck and back down the other side. Okay, continue picking up stitches, approximately 3 stitches for every 4 rows of your stockinette stitch. So when you get to the back here, it's easier to see your stitches. So from here, you're just going to pick up 1 stitch from every row here. Okay, when you get to this side, you just pick up along the side of the front panel. Okay, so we have our front right here. Okay, I like to pick up an odd number of stitches so that I can end and start with the same stitch. So we're going to start knitting where our working yarn is, so that's going in this direction, which means we're on the wrong side of the work. Because we want the twisted knit stitches to show on the right side, we're going to purl the knit stitches through the back loop. Because on the right side you knit it, on the wrong side you purl it. So when you're ready to purl, you want to purl through the back loops. So yarn in front. So remember, we insert our needle this way for the knit through back loop back here. For the purl through back loop, we're going to make sure the yarn is in the front, and then using this back loop, we're going to insert our needle like that, and then purl the stitch. And then knit is going to be just a normal knit with the yarn in the back, and then now we're going to purl through the back loop again. So here's the back loop. This is the front loop right here. We're going to purl through the back loop. Yarn in back, knit the next stitch, yarn in front, and we're going to purl through the back loop. Knit as normal, and then purl through the back loop. Okay, continue that all the way across to the other side. Okay, so with the last stitch, I'm going to purl through back loop, and that's what I meant by starting and ending with the same stitch. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work and knit on the right side back and forth. Okay, so now we're going to work on the right side. So this first stitch is knit, so we're going to actually start knitting the knit stitches through the back loop. So inserting your needle through the back loop. Okay, you want to knit the first stitch, and then on the right side we purl as normal. Knit through the back loop and purl as normal. So continue that pattern all the way across. Okay, so now you're just going to repeat those 2 rows, working back and forth until you're happy with the size of your band. So here I worked 11 or 12 rows, and then you just bind off or cast off the same way you've been doing with all your other pieces. Remember, on the wrong side you're going to purl through back loop, knit as normal, and then on the right side you knit through back loop and purl as normal. So once you're ready to cast off, you can cast off either on the front or back side, it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to use the same method we've been using. Knit 2, pass this first stitch over the second, knit 1, pass the previous stitch over the just knitted stitch, and then just continue that all the way across. Okay, I'm at the last stitch here. Now you just want to fasten off and weave in your ends. You do want to be careful, this yarn gets caught and will break if you tug on it too tight. Okay, so just weave in all of your ends on the inside of your work. All right, here is the sample. Okay, that's it. You could have started with ribbing as well. I didn't plan for it, so I didn't put that in. but I think that would look very nice as well. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't, please subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on your notifications so that you will be notified whenever I post a new video. Alright, I'll see you next time.